Hello again. Again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, they can't hear you.
Hello again. Thank you all for coming to our first ever Dev Talk interview with our incredible sound designer, Mr. Eduardo Zolioff. This will be our first one. This will be our first one in a hopefully series where we want to show you guys how our process is, or how we do stuff, how we make the game, Atomic Picnic. So I am going to introduce Eduardo Zolioff here. He's our amazing sound designer, has worked on some cool stuff, has won some prizes. So please, Zolioff, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hello. I'm Eduardo as well. Uh, so yeah, thanks for having me at first, both in the project and here as well. uh, so yeah, I've been doing audio for games for like 10 years now, I think. I've been working with audio before that, but it's been around 10 years since I've been doing game audio. Uh, yeah, I've done, I think, over 30 or 40 projects at this point. Some bigger than others. Not every project, of course, is going to be like a Tom Picnic size, but so yeah, I've been doing music, sound design, implementation sometimes coordinating stuff, kind of as an audio producer. You kind of have to learn how to uh, handle things in different areas within audio, and yeah, so yeah, that's basically it. And I've been
Nice.
pretty happy doing a Tom Picnic lately. Yay.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. So first questions first. The most important question of the interview is Pokemon or Digimon?
Oh, oh, okay. Oh, Pokemon. It's gonna be Pokemon. I really like Digimon as well, but yeah, I'm more of a Pokemon guy.
Oh, nice, nice. I like Pokemon more, but I think the music in Digimon is way better.
I think they're just different, but I like both. I like the energy on Digimon, but I mean, you gotta love Pokemon as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you cannot not like Pokemon music. It's just impossible, and the sound design too. Just overall, like, can you
It's
imagine doing like a thousand, like the sound for 1,000 different creatures, and
yeah.
even back then, with like the 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 Game Boy's like hardware limitations and all, doing the sound for that, it's kind of crazy.
That is
But
very
yeah,
crazy. I never thought about sound design in Pokemon, but I've already I thought about animation a lot because I'm original animator. So I thought it's like imagine animating like 1,000
yeah.
like creatures. That's insane, right? So let's jump to your story. Could you tell us a little bit more about who is Zolioff? What's your backstory? Did you go to college, university? Where did you work previously? And how did you end up at BitCake?
All right. It's a long story. All right. So I've been always doing stuff related to music. Like I come from a family of musicians. Like my mom has a graduation in piano. I have a brother that also plays the drums, the keyboard. My sister used to play the bass as well. So yeah, I've been like pretty much in a family that just enjoys music in general, and um, I come from Brasilia, which and I was in the metal scene there when, because I'm the younger brother. So like my brother used to play with Marcelo Barbosa in a band called Cálice, which now Marcelo Barbosa plays for Angra, which is it's a pretty big metal band in Brazil. So yeah, just summing it up, I've always been like involved with music, and so when I turned 18, I had to go to college, my mom was very worried about me doing uh, college for music. So she was like, "Hey, how did you like? Have you considered something else?" And I'm like, "Okay, mom, I don't want you to worry too much. So I'm gonna do mathematics." And she was like, "Huh, mathematics, huh? You know, your father used to work for this company. You know, he did statistics back then. And how about statistics?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, I'll give it a go." So I did statistics for like 2 years.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
that's great. Yeah, like, I still think to this day that if I had done like mathematics, which I would have been cool with it, like because statistics wasn't really my choice.
Uh-huh.
So like if I went with mathematics, maybe I would have taken a different path in life because I really enjoy math in general. But statistic, like, I don't know, wasn't really my thing. Or maybe it just because it wasn't my choice. I don't know. So I dropped out of college at that point, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with life? So like, at that point, I started like playing a lot of Dota and also learning Japanese. So it was a weird like couple of years. Like I almost played Dota professionally. Uh, I almost went for college for Japanese as well. Uh,
Nice.
but I ended up going with industrial design because at that point, one of the reasons that I started studying Japanese was because I found, let's say, I found again anime in my life. Right,
Ah,
I used to watch like
yes.
Pokemon when I was a kid and all, and it was like I wouldn't watch anymore. But then one day I was browsing the TV and I was like surfing the channels, and I was like, I started watching uh, what is it called? Fate Stay Night. And I was like, oh
Oh.
my god, that's so nice, that's so pretty, like everything's so good. And I was like, maybe I can work with that. Like, why not doing animation? But the thing is, like I wasn't a person like that used to draw. So like I started from like ground zero, and it took me like 3 tries before getting into college again. Not only because of the the thing that we have that is equivalent to SATs, but also it was because of the technical test.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how it's called, but it's kind of technical
An A?
drawing test.
Is that an A? Oh, the drawing test.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Uh-huh.
not only have to go through the SATs, but you still have to go through that
Yeah.
technical test. And I remember I made it like my I took like 5 out of 10, like, and I'm pretty sure those five that I was able to get was just out of creativity and not because I could draw at all, because I'm terrible at drawing. But that got me into college again, and it was kind of okay because it was still a very creative related field. So I was like, okay, let's try that. But at the same time, like I was still doing music on the side, like mostly for fun, but still doing some music stuff. And then, uh, yeah, I did like 2 years on industrial design, which ended up becoming graphic design. They changed the name of the
But
of the
you
graduation.
never stop playing music, right? You're like you're still
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I was still like involved with music, but not on a professional level at that point,
mm-hmm.
because I was like trying to figure out what I was gonna work with. Wasn't my main focus, I'd say. But yeah, but then I was like 2 years into the graphic design college, and uh, okay, yeah, the story goes on. But like I started dating, and my girlfriend back then, she 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 told me about this music contest that was happening because it was with an artist that she really liked. It's called he's called Steven Wilson from a band called Porcupine Tree. Don't know if anyone knows about the band, but he was doing this contest because he was just releasing like a virtual instrument, and she
Nice.
told me about it, and I heard some of the tracks that were submitted to the contest, and I was like, huh, maybe I can do something that would win the contest. And she was like, all right, give it a go. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a go. And that was like about like a couple of days before the submission was over. And I was like,
Oh.
all right, yeah, it was pretty tight. Like the deadline was pretty tight. So I gave it a shot, and turned out I ended up winning the contest.
Wow.
It was me. Yeah,
Nice.
was pretty nice. It was pretty nice. It was me and my brother that we worked together on the track, and yeah, we won. And that was kind of like a wake up call
What's
because
the prize? The prize. What did you win?
we got like we won a couple of softwares from the company that was doing that made that software.
Which is
The
by the
virtual
way,
instrument.
usually very expensive. Like people don't
Yeah,
realize how much like music stuff costs. It's very
yeah,
expensive. So that's a pretty nice prize. That's pretty good.
yeah. It was from the company is called Native Instruments. They do a lot of virtual instruments, so was really nice to me. And yeah, so like we got a lot of the softwares. We got tickets to Steven Wilson's concert anywhere in the world.
Oh, that's for your
And
girlfriend. That was good.
yeah, we were both happy about it. But and yeah, it was, I think it was pretty much that. Yeah, we got to meet him as well, and I mean it was just nice in general. But that happened just before I went to I moved to Canada for a while, for Vancouver, because I was going to do an exchange program there. Was called Science Without Borders. Uh, and since that, like the whole contest thing happened just before me going to Vancouver, I was like, you know what? I'll be there a year just by myself. So why not give like music a go? Like since I won the contest, like one of like the people that I look up to, music speaking, like heard my work and was like, hey, that's nice. And I was like, okay, maybe there's still time to go back to music. So yeah, I was just like for a whole year I was just doing a lot of music and sound design. I went for graphic design college again, but it kind of worked out nicely because there were a lot of people doing animation and film stuff, and they needed sound. And I was like the first person they would know that did any sort of like music and sound design. So I worked on a lot of projects. Like eat just like noodles and McDonald's coupons for a whole year just so I could afford some of the keyboards and just gear in general and the virtual libraries as well. And yeah, so like when I was just about to leave there, I got an internship in a game company there. Um, I think it was called Zeros to Heroes, I think. And I started working on my first like game projects there. And when I got back to Brazil, I wanted to stay there for a little longer, but I couldn't. So I had to come back to Brazil. And once I was back, the people that I worked with in the internship, they reached out and was like, "Hey, we wanted you to continue working with us." And I was like, "Okay." So yeah, I continued to work with them. I'm from Brasilia, and I went back to Brasilia, and I noticed there was a pretty big, or yeah, it was one of the main hubs I'd say in Brazil for game development back
Yeah,
then.
it was. Just sort for context, like the biggest hubs in Brazil for game devs, like Rio, São Paulo. The south is very good, but at the time, I think there was Behold was there already.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Behold was a pretty big, like up and coming indie game studio, right? So like
yeah,
around them formed like a lot of other studios because the head guy from Behold Salo, he really likes like to share knowledge and stuff like that. So I think the indie scene in Brasilia is a capital of Brazil, right? We've been saying Brasilia, people don't know maybe. So that time, like everywhere was like the indie scene was like starting to be born in Brazil. So yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, Behold would help like making that scene grow, and like we had the indie house back then with a few studios, including Behold Studios, and then it eventually turned out into the game, the indie warehouse with a lot more studios.
I remember that.
Was Yeah, it was pretty nice, and it was like the timing was just perfect because I was there, and I realized not a lot of people were doing audio back then, so I started like networking, getting to know people, going to game jams. I met a lot of people in Global Game Jam, which was hosted by Behold at the Indie House. And so yeah, eventually I started working with Behold Studios as well, and with the Balancing, which ended up uh, being bought by Modus Games. They became Modus Brazil later on.
Mhm.
So yeah, I worked with Behold Studios, with Modus Brazil, with later on with Glitch Factory that did No Place for Bravery, and then also Seas Studios that did What the Duck. And yeah, so I was like, was the perfect timing. So I learned a lot during that time, and then a few years later, I I I met a guy called Herman. Uh, I used to go a lot to conference. I still go actually to game development conference, just because I really enjoy like the overall vibe. It kind of like it boosts
The
my
morale, right?
energy.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty nice. So in one of those, I met Herman, and he was working for Black River Studios. We met in LA actually for Game SoundCon, during Game SoundCon, and yeah, so like I met him for a couple of days, and then like a year later, he reached out to me, and he was like, "We got an empty spot here, like an opening for composer. Do you wanna come to Black River Studios?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I ended up moving to Manaus, which is in Amazonas, close to the Amazon forest,
It's
actually.
very hot and at the top of Brazil near Ecuador. So guys, it's
Yeah,
very hot and humid where he lives. It's
yeah.
crazy. It's insane.
My electricity bill is like it's crazy high, unfortunately, but we just gotta live with it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I came to Manaus, and I started working for Black River Studios, which was like uh, they were affiliated with Samsung. It's kind of because we have we used to have a no, we still have the company called Cydia, but it used to stand for like Samsung Institute of Development something in Amazonas. Uh, so so it was kind of like the studio was funded by Samsung. That's pretty much it. So because they had their VR headset back then, but I was lucky that I came at a time in that they were doing not only VR stuff but also PC stuff, the Switch stuff. So yeah, I worked in a few projects here, and that also I was like I still kept in touch with the folks from Canada. I met other developers in the conference, so like I worked with people from China, from Austria,
That's
pretty much all
crazy.
over the place. Yeah, because the thing is like joining audio can be, and usually it's kind of expensive. Like if you wanna start digging with like getting the gear and the softwares and all of that. So like you have to figure it out and work as much as you can. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I did for the past 10 years.
Nice.
And funny enough, I actually ended up working with BitCake Studios because we have a mutual friend, me and Edu, that this mutual friend, I worked with him in Black River Studios here in Manaus, which was Bruno, right?
Yes. Bruno and
Tossi. Bruno
Thaís
Tossi,
também.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, because of that mutual connection, I ended up getting to know BitCake and Edu, and we
Yeah.
started working together, and here we are.
See, people, this is the power of networking. Like, you have to go to events. You have to work many jobs. I just knew Thais and Bruno because I worked together with them in another company in another city. So yeah, we got to networking. So it's important. That's super cool. I love hearing your story. So let's start the talking about your process, how you make your sounds. But first, I just want to make clear for everyone. If you guys want to ask questions, you can ask questions to Zulov in the chat. And at the end, Bill will send me the questions and we will try and ask them to Zulov if they're cool. And please keep it on topic. But yeah, so Zulov, can you tell us about your process? How is it that you make like sound effects or the soundtrack? And please talk about the software because every time you see like an artist doing stuff, people are like, "Oh, what software do you use? Which brush do you use?" You know. So just get it out of the way. Talk about the software that you use, so people are like, "Oh, he uses this software," you know. But talk about your process, how it is, what inspires you, and how do you do your sounds?
All right. So the process is a bit different for pretty much all aspects of audio. Like sound design has its own thing, music has its own thing, implementation. So yeah, they are different from one another. Software wise, so I personally like using for music Cubase. It's from Steinberg. The company is called Steinberg. Uh, but truth be told, like in the end, it doesn't really matter which software you use because they will. I think it's kind of like when people ask about like Blender and Maya, I
Yeah,
guess. So
that
like
that
they,
no, it's
yeah, no,
exactly like that. Like people don't realize that software doesn't matter in the end for any like if you're an artist, if you're using Photoshop or Krita, it's the same thing. Like for animation, in my case, if I'm using Maya or Blender, it's the same thing. But people like asking for the software, so
yeah. The thing is like they have like very few differences. I would say it's more like like in one software you have this specific tool that might work better for a specific kind of project, but overall they really overlap most stuff between them. So it doesn't really matter, I'd say 99% of the time, unless you need something like really specific. uh so yeah, like audio has like we have the audio softwares, we usually call them DAWs, which stands for digital audio workstation. And so yeah, there's a lot of them. I used to work with Pro Tools back then, which is kind of a industry standard. Still not that much of a standard, but still is one of the biggest ones. And then I switched to Cubase, but like, I mean, people will work with tons of different dolls, and they just work fine. And so yeah, that's for music. For sound design, I use Nuendo mostly, but I'm slowly switching back to Reaper. Um, just because Reaper has like I think it's open source. I'm not completely sure, or at least it has like a huge community behind it, which
mhm.
make the community makes plugins that can be really helpful. So for that reason alone, I'm trying to move back to Reaper. I used to use Reaper a few years ago, and then I switched to Nuendo because I had an issue. it's a very specific issue with Reaper and Google Drive. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Nuendo now, and then I got used to Nuendo, and now I'm going back to Reaper. Uh, and yeah, like software wise, that's pretty much it. For implementation, we use middlewares most of the time, or like sound designers try to use middleware, which is basically a software that stands exactly as it says, like in the
In the middle.
middle of the game engine and the digital audio workstation. So like I use the digital audio workstation to create the assets, and then I put those assets inside the middleware, and then the middleware connects to the game engine. And it's usually better because the implementation is easier through the middleware, and it also has an easier, let's say, an easier interface to work with in general. So like audio people usually prefer to work with middlewares for the interface alone and not have to worry too much about like the coding aspect of
Yeah.
doing audio, you know. uh the two big ones, the two bigger middlewares would be Fmod and Wise. Again, it's one of those like whichever is usually fine.
We use Fmod on Atomic, just so everyone
We
knows.
use Fmod. You have a few features in Wise that give you more control as an audio designer, but Fmod is like has really good features as well. So like it just works. Any one of those is fine. So yeah.
So
Uh,
if you are making, let's say you are making a sound like a new upgrade, like we're making a lot of new upgrades as you've seen, but like when you're making an upgrade, guide everyone through the phases. What you've seen the new upgrade, what do you do to make a sound?
okay. So yeah, so the first thing is that we have a video capture about it. Uh, we usually need to have that on like uh, how the actual thing works in the game. Most of the time, we try not to skip that part unless it like you have a really tight deadline and for whatever reason you have to just deliver the asset like along with everybody else because you didn't have time. So yeah, unless that's the case, usually you have the video capture first, which we call it as audio spotting, which, as the name suggests, when you spot the audio. After that, you start working on the sound as you figure out like how that sound splits itself. Let's say because let's say you have I don't know, like this laser beam that shoots from a gun. So like you have to think about the start of the sound, the loop of the sound, the ending of the sound, how that sound is gonna behave alongside other sounds in the game. So there's like the hierarchy system, how the player is gonna perceive that sound. Also, how that sound positions in the game. Like, is it a 3D sound? Is it a 2D sound that occupies the whole spectrum of the frequencies? So there's a lot to be considered, uh, and you find a lot of those answers as you are designing the sound itself. Uh, and the way you design those sounds, you either work with a sound library like there are a lot of companies that will record a lot of sounds, edit them, and sell them. Like you buy, let's say, 1,000 gunshot sounds. So, and that's really helpful because if you don't have those libraries, you have to go and record those sounds. Maybe you don't have to, like, let's say you're working doing this gunshot sound. You don't have a gun, or you can't, like, you can't figure out the logistics of doing that recording. And so then you have to figure out a way to fake it. Like, for instance, if you're doing the the flapping of a dragon wings. So like you don't have a dragon that you can record, so you have to figure out a way to fake it.
I
So a
have a
lot of
dragon. I have a dragon.
oh, okay. Okay. I'm gonna call you every time I need to do the sound of a
Okay,
dragon.
okay, okay.
But yeah, so like most of the time, what you hear in a game or in a movie is actually fake per se. It's more like how we perceive the idea of the sound rather than like recording the actual sound. Uh, the real sound is what we call again, we're going to that like how people name stuff. Some people will use different names, but they usually name this real sounds as Foley capture. Um, and like you can find like on YouTube and stuff like that, people doing like Foley for games, Foley for movies, and it's a really fun process. You usually have the scene in a room full of like uh, different materials that you can just be creative with it. So like you just gotta make it sound right, and a lot of the process is like a sandbox process that you just try stuff, you know, and you figure it out as you go. Like you try different ideas, and what makes like an experienced sound designer is that you build like a vocabulary. So like if you have to do a specific sound, instead of like just browsing like not really knowing what you're looking for, you have already a vocabulary in your head. So like uh, if you have to do the sound of the wings, so you know that you can use one of those things that I don't remember the name, but you know that you when you're like in a
You
hot place.
flap it. Oh,
Yeah. So like you can use on one of those, or you can just use one of those cleaning things,
like
which
getting
I don't
like
remember the
a
name.
like a thing
Like a
like this.
brush kind of thing,
Oh,
you know.
okay, yeah.
And then you flap it real quickly, and you can have that sort of sound. So that sort of a vocabulary is what you ended up building. The more you work with the audio design part. And yeah, so like the process can go both ways. You can either record your stuff or have it sourced from a library, and then you usually edit like a single sound that you hear in the game. It's gonna be like 10 layers or even more sometimes. So you have to, it's a lot of like finding the right sounds and layering them on top of each other, and then getting like that. Sometimes you have like a very specific like I don't know, 0.1 second sound that works just for that one bit of an attack of a sound or something like that, and then you start blending and stuff all together. And then after you do that, you have the sound itself, and then once you have the sound done, you render that sound, check with the team, and then you put it into the middleware. And then after you have it on the middleware, which is a whole other thing in itself, but to keep it simple, you put it in the middleware, and then you connect that sound in the game engine. And then after that, you have to figure it out, like again, how that sound communicates with other sounds. If that sound can like trigger I don't know, 10 times at the same time, or 20 times, or if it triggers once, do you have to wait like a few seconds so you can hear it again? Or it might sound weird for some reason. So yeah, there's a lot of technical questions on how that sound behaves in the game itself. And a lot of the answers, again, you gotta try stuff out. Uh, and also those answers can be different if you're thinking of a single player game or if you're thinking of a multiplayer game. And yeah,
In
so
2D,
that's the
3D.
sound design aspect.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah,
there's things that people don't realize. Like there's 3D sound, 2D sound. Like 3D sound is if you move far, you can see it, right? And if you move around, you can see like in your left ear, right ear, stuff like that, right? That's pretty
yeah,
insane. I have to think of
yeah.
everything like that when like making
Like
sound.
how far can you hear that sound?
Yeah.
and like how if that sounds behind you, like do you need to hear the same way you'd hear it if it were in front of you? Because like if you see the, let's say, an enemy in front of you, it's one thing, but if you don't see it and it's in your back, like do you want to listen, perceive it as being closer to you than it actually is, just as an warning system for for when you're playing the game, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when we contacted you to make a time picnic, um, the briefing, I think the briefing was that I told you was, so we're making a Brazilian anime game, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's this is the main concept. The Atomic Picnic is supposed to be an anime made by Brazilians with influence of our culture. So what has been your inspirations for it on our like soundtrack? What has inspired you to like to fulfill this kind of this vision?
All right. So when it comes to like the let's say the sound concept of Atomic Picnic, of course we like there's a lot of anime stuff to it, uh, and just like Japanese game inspired stuff, music, and again game game music and anime music is like I'd say the biggest inspiration. Uh, but also I take a lot of inspiration from uh, Brazilian games as well. Like I have this friend, Rafael Miller, which did one of Behold Studios games too. Uh, he did what was it called again?
Chroma Squad.
Chroma Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I take a lot of inspiration out of his work as well. Uh, and just like Brazilian music in general, like we, of course, we have our own genres like samba, pagode,
MPB.
forró, MPB. Yeah. So like I try taking out some elements out of those um, and blend them together. Of course, depending on the track, it's more obvious than in other tracks. For instance, if we're going like with a very uh, let's say I don't want to say heavy metal because it's not heavy metal, but like more like a rock and roll kind of song. Uh, I'm gonna look for inspiration in Brazilian bands that did that kind of stuff. So like you can find songs from Mutantes or Secos e Molhados, for instance, which are bands that are really cool and they do blend some elements of Brazilian music. Uh, I mean, not only they do Brazilian music, but also with rock and yeah, and it's just like it's a big mix of stuff, and sometimes you notice more of those Brazilian elements. Sometimes you notice more of the anime elements. Uh, so yeah, for instance, in the camp track, it's very Brazilian like, right? You notice way more than the anime aspect of it. So
Yeah.
we try to find like a middle ground because it's a really like those two words are very hard to mix all together, you know. So
It is.
yeah.
But like, can you name some like influences of the anime side? Because I think people from like the community would know more anime. So can you name some
Mm.
anime that inspired you? Some like openings, endings, stuff like that.
Oh, for sure, Digimon. a lot of a lot of like I've heard like I don't know if a lot of people like I've seen some people saying like in the comments of the trailers and teasers saying like, oh, that sounds kind of like Digimon. I was like, all right, you got the reference. That's perfectly it. Because I think it has a lot of the concept behind like the main concept I'd say, other than having Brazilian elements and anime elements, is that I'd say the headline of the soundtrack is the power of friendship. That's how I see it. Like it's an anime kind of motto, and I think that applies to the soundtrack and also for Atomic Picnic. Uh, so I try to look for music that carries that sort of energy, and I think that Digimon's the one that has the most of it. Uh, but yeah, like uh, where else? I'm trying to remember the name of. There's this. What is the name of the guy? I think I'm thinking of Initial D, but it's actually the guy that recorded the Deja Vu track.
Oh,
But no,
Eurobeat? Is that it?
what is it called?
Is it the band Eurobeat?
No, not it's not Eurobit. Let me see if I can find the name real quick because
Eurobeat's a
that dude like
genre. I didn't know Eurobeat was a genre. I'm sorry, Bill. Well, so Bill is saying
uh
manual.
Deja Vu Initial D, right? But what is the name of the artist?
Bill is saying it's manual.
Tsukoji.
Tsukuji.
Tsukoji.
Yeah. No, you
So
were very wrong, Bill. That's a L. That's an L for you.
so yeah, there's this guy Tsukoji that I think he re-records a lot of those like anime tracks, and his playlist like the stuff that he re-records. Not only the tracks itself are really good, but the energy he puts in those tracks, like I think there are like big inspiration to Atomic Picnic. Like I hear those tracks a lot just so I can have that fresh in my head. And his version of Digimon is the version that the main theme of Digimon, right?
Mhm.
So like his version is the version that I take inspiration a lot, like more than the actual Digimon theme, you know. But yeah, so like uh, Digimon, Tsukuji, some stuff from Hunter x Hunter. I like the energy as well, even though it's a bit more orchestral. Uh, other uh, other artists would be I'm forgetting the name, but it's the one from Attack on Titan. Although we haven't heard a lot, like people haven't heard much of that aspect, but for like bosses and all of that, we kind of want to do some stuff that goes more to that side of the composer of Attack on Titan. Yeah, so I'd say those are basically the
Nah,
main reference that I had. Oh, also, uh, I'm forgetting all the names, but
it's not a
the
problem.
what is the name of the guy that is the? It's a popular anime now. The guy is dressed all green.
The guys dress all green?
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't
my
know.
god.
Someone in the chat will know for
I
sure.
know Iago plays the game a lot. Oh, I have Fire Emblem in my head. It has nothing to do with Fire
It's
Emblem.
not.
Uh, what is it? Which you have that guy that is really weak and then he becomes like a very strong hero.
Oh, you're describing, yeah, a single anime. Yeah, it's not like every
No,
single
a single
shonen
anime.
is like that.
Oh, okay, okay. That's fair.
Every
But you
single
have that
shonen, you
very
have a
like
weak
that
guy, then
very
he becomes strong.
no, but you know that very skinny guy.
My Hero
Yeah, My Hero
Academia.
Academia. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's the name.
that's a huge inspiration for the art, for Atomic Picnic's
Yeah.
art. Yeah, that's my hero, Hiroaka. Yes, that's
Jesus
very
Christ.
cool.
Took me forever to describe it. Sorry.
Because you said green guy, I was like, wait, Midori is green, but
Yeah.
he's like he's not green, you know, he's like a dude with green hair. So it
No,
didn't.
yeah, he like his clothing is like the clothes are green, right? Or am I
Yeah,
remembering wrong?
yeah.
It is right.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, my
Um,
memory is just
yeah. So I had a good question, and then the good question just flew out
faded
of my
away.
head. Yeah. So some of what are oh yeah, I remember.
Okay.
People don't know this. We haven't announced it yet, but Masahiro Oki is making our mixing for all our soundtrack. So can you tell it? Because you were the guy who approached him. Can you tell us and everyone here who is Masahiro Oki and how the hell did you get him to do our mixing for the soundtrack?
Yeah, so Masahiro Oki is he worked on a lot of Capcom projects. He did some of the soundtrack for Street Fighter 5, if I'm not mistaken. He did he recorded some stuff for the Hades soundtrack as well. So yeah, he's I'll say he's a legend.
I'd agree with
uh,
that. I'd agree with that.
yeah, he's pretty awesome. He's pretty awesome, and it's one of those things like networking strikes again. I met a few people in one of those conferences. It's a guy that works for Tencent, and we have we like I met this person from Tencent, and I knew he worked with Masahiro Okusan. Uh, so I've heard some of the stuff that he produced, and I was like, that's really awesome. So I've asked him to connect the both of us, and like he immediately connected us, and I got the chance to talk to him about the soundtrack, about the project, and he was really excited about it, and he thought it sounded really cool, which was uh, like one of the things that I was worried the most. When you talk from a legend, like when you talk to a legend, and we're like, oh man, he's like, is he gonna like the music at all? He's gonna accept the project, like working with us, and we're like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do it for sure. So yeah, he got involved, and he's helping us with the mixing, and sometimes he records some of the guitar solos as well. And again, the concept of the soundtrack and the sound in general is power of friendship. So one of the things that I'm trying to do in the soundtrack is to bring a lot of people to work together uh, in order to make something that would be way better if I was just doing by myself. So I'm trying to have a lot of people featured, that like people that play the game will get to know as we release stuff, release more music. So yeah, we have a lot of awesome people that are going to work with us, that are working with us in the soundtrack.
Nice. So, speaking of it, what are some of your favorite things that you've worked on Atomic Picnic? It could be sound, it could be the soundtrack. What's some of your favorite things?
So one of my favorite things was to figure out like the more technical aspect of how we were going to place the sounds in the game, and still is, to truth be told. uh, because one of the main challenges in doing audio for games is how the player is going to perceive that audio, right? uh, because you can have like a thousand things playing at the same time, so you have to figure out what you want the player to hear, and how the person is going to perceive that sound in the space. So there's a lot of like technical aspects that you have to think about. uh let's say you have the listener, right, which is what tracks, it's kind of your ears within the game of the character ears. So you have to figure out how you place that listener, how that listener behaves with the other players in the game. What are the things that you're gonna all listen, whatever, uh, yeah. So like whatever you are in the map. So there's a lot of those like technical questions that are really challenging when you think of a multiplayer game, when you think of a game that that has a lot of stuff happening in the screen. Like it's completely different to make the sound for a game that let's say Street Fighter, that you have two characters in the screen, right? The
Yeah.
challenges are completely different than when you have four players, uh, and then you have like I don't know, hundreds sometimes of enemies in
Yeah, a
the
lot of
game player.
enemies.
And also like that's from the technical aspect. It's one of the things that I like the most.
Hmm.
But also, I really like this just working in the soundtrack in general, but mostly in the main theme of the soundtrack. The idea of like, it's one of my favorite things actually in, in doing music. It's like developing the main theme of a project, because it's like it's what gonna hype people up. And when we were working on the music for Atomic, like figuring out that main theme, I think we got to a really nice like result that I'd hear like people sometimes humming or
Yeah.
just not only the main theme, but sometimes other tracks as well. That's the most rewarding thing about doing audio in general. Like for the music, when you hear people humming your songs, that
Yeah.
that's that's really
That's
that's
really
really
good. Yeah,
rewarding.
it's in you're in their head. I mean your
Yeah.
mind, you know? It's like, yeah, man. I
Or
see myself like humming the musics all the time. I really love them.
yeah, so that's really nice. And on the sound design aspect, it's when you hear people like mimicking the sounds, like that people got so used to the sound that they're like, oh, or they were like, oh, I'm hearing that enemy around the corner, So yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. And overall, in your career, I have a question here. In your career, what was
Mhm.
the weirdest thing you have ever to do? Like a weird sound or weird music? What's the weirdest thing you've ever worked on?
Okay. I would say um it was hmm. Let me just think for a second, just to be sure if there's nothing more weird than that. Yeah, probably the one of the tracks for No Place for Bravery. Um, so like No Place for Bravery is very influenced by like Norse, Nordic mythology or history in general. So when we first released like the very first trailer we released to the public, the announcement trailer, we wanted to make a very impactful song.
Mm-hmm.
So in and we wanted to like send the message that hey, this is our concept and this is what the game's going to be about. So we wanted the music to translate that as well. And I ended up doing the lyrics for the trailer music in Old Norse, which it's as far as I know is a kind of a dead language
That's
at this
crazy.
point. Like it's kind of like Latin. People don't really use it anymore. I think it's more like people that like to study it. So like I had to found a translator that worked with old like that studied actually Old Norse, and he like I wrote the lyrics in English and then sent to him to translate. He did the translation, but then I had to ask me, can you record yourself like saying
Speaking, yeah, yeah.
yeah, speaking and like very slowly and like uh splitting the words like
The
the better you
phonemes,
can.
yeah.
Yeah, the phonemes exactly. Because I would have to figure out how I would place those eh, like the phonemes that were just really sounds to me. I'd have to figure out how I'm gonna split those in how I think the lyrics should be, you know. And then I would have to find someone to sing those lyrics in a like believable way. So I had to find like one of our biggest inspirations was um, one of the bands that did the Vikings, the show, the that
Yeah.
used to
Yeah.
be was History Channel. I don't know,
Yeah.
but the soundtrack from Vikings like one of the biggest inspirations. I forgot the name of the band now, uh, obviously, as I forget all the names. But I really wanted to have like the singer there, but I, of course, like he was way out of reach. I didn't have the connections, and like he would be very expensive to hire. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find someone in YouTube doing a cover, and like I I looked for a couple of the weeks, and then I found this guy that was a really good singer, and he was a college student. Had his own like kind of a Viking band, and I
Uh-huh.
reached out to him. I was like, "Can you sing like stuff in Old Norse?" since you sing like since you do the covers. And I was like, yeah, I think so. You know, I can sing in Icelandic, which is kind of close. So yeah,
If I was a college student, I would not refuse. Like ever. Like guys offering me money for like to sing. Like, of course, yeah, I know how to speak Japanese. Yeah, for sure.
but like he was actually really
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 good.
good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like he was down with the idea, and it's the funny thing is he was so good that he ended up working later on, like one of the albums that he released, he had one of the actors from the show, because one of the actors of the show was like one of the kings. I forgot the name of the king, of course, but
Uh-huh.
like he invited one of those actors to sing in one of his albums. So like
Wow.
everything connected and was like super super nice.
That's so cool.
Uh, yeah, yeah. It's the show. It's the one that has Ragnar.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
Ragnar lost.
It's yeah, yeah.
Oh, I just want to remember the name of the band, but I'm. Ah,
Bill will be on top of that. Right, Bill?
yeah. So like everything turned out really well, and like people really enjoyed. And Wardruna. Yes, I found it. Okay, it's called Wardruna. The band. It's really really good. Like, so yeah, he sang really well, and everything turned out fine. And like it was really nice because if you go to see the trailer in YouTube, one of the things that people like will talk the most is about the soundtrack,
Mm-hmm.
the music in that trailer, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I take that as a huge win. It
Yeah,
was
that
kind of weird, but it worked out fine.
yeah. But No Place for Bravery ended up super cool, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a fun project to work with.
So, let's go for chat questions because it's been an hour. So let's do them. So Lasumi asks, and I've kind of asked you this question already. I'm just gonna ask you if you have something more to add. So they ask, was there some inspiration for the Atomic Picnic OST? Do you want to add something more, or it's fine?
I think that was pretty much it. And like My Hero Academia, Digimon, some stuff from Attack on Titan, the Tsukuji guy, some Brazilian music. Yeah, that's pretty much
Nice,
the whole
perfect.
thing.
Sergeant Ryder asks, what is one thing that continues to inspire you to do sound design?
Mm. What continues to inspire me to do sound design? I think the main thing about doing audio work is that it's very like the nature of doing audio is very refreshing in itself, because everything is a challenge. Like even though, like, let's say if you okay, I have to work on the footstep sounds. So you might think, okay, so you've done footstep sounds like a lot of times, right? Yes, but the like the sounds for a specific character is gonna be different depending on that character, you know. So like depending on the height of the character, depending on the weight of the character, depending on how the character behaves, the animation itself, you know, the personality of the character. So like there's a lot to take it in account. Um, and because of that, like everything that is thrown at me is like it's a different challenge. So it is something that like I'd say I like puzzles, you know. So like everything's a new puzzle basically.
Uh-huh.
So you just have to figure stuff out as you go, and yeah, it's just fun in general, and that keeps things like uh, just refreshing
Nice.
and inspiring. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So Bill asks, and he can ask this anytime, any day, but he's taking other people's questions. Right, Bill? I'm just joking, Bill. I'm just joking. What is your favorite track from the Atomic Picnic so far?
Oh,
You're
man, I
asking
have
your
to go.
Bill is asking a parent to pick his favorite child, basically. You know, that's a mean question.
Yeah, yeah.
So what, do you have an answer to that?
I'd say I don't know. Like I wouldn't say only for Atomic Picnic, but generally speaking, I like the main themes of the stuff that like of all the works that I do. Uh, yeah, it's just because like I think it represents a lot of what the game and the soundtrack is about. So yeah, probably because of that is I would say it's my main my favorite track now and probably for the rest of the project. Like it's always like I said, like pick your child. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be my baby, let's say, for the whole project. You know?
Yeah. Um, Army Army asks, have you ever faced any unique challenges when working on sounds for specific games?
For
Unique
specific
challenge, a unique
sounds.
challenge.
Uh, let me think. You know what? Neko Neko Rampage was quite challenging. the BitCake's other game, right?
Yeah.
One of BitCake's other game. Uh, the whole idea of like having cat sounds mixed with just like the sound design aspect of the game, you know, without like it's supposed to be like a funny game too, but like you don't want to make it like too corny or in
Yeah.
a way that just sounds bad, but you also have to mix those cat elements
Yeah.
to a lot of the stuff of the audio in the game. So it was quite challenging, you know. It was quite challenging,
Nice,
but
nice.
it's also really fun. It's really fun too.
Army also asks, has Atomic Picnic been a fun project of yours? And I might remember you that you're on clock. So if it's not, I'm gonna be mad. So no, it's fine. Has Atomic Picnic been a fun project of yours?
Absolutely, man. Like I've been well, like when we first talked about Atomic Picnic, I think I told you like I've been wanting to do like anime music for a long time, you know, anime inspired music, you know. So like was like the perfect match, and I was like super excited to work on it. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
people
been
don't
super
know.
fun.
People don't know. Because when I asked you, I was like, we want to do anime. Like
Hmm.
you wouldn't let anyone else do it. You really wanted to do it. I was like, please. You were like, I want to do anime music so bad. So I was like, I didn't actually have a choice of picking anyone else to do the soundtrack because you really wanted to do it, and I really value like a person that's in love with the concept. So you were in love with the concept. You really wanted to do anime soundtracks for a long time. So I was like, yeah, there's no reason why not call this guy because he's so passionate about it. So I'm really glad that you're having fun.
Yeah, and thanks for having me.
So,
I hope it's
sir,
working out fine so far.
it's getting there. It's amazing, right? But we'll have more soundtracks for everyone in the future. So, Sir Pex asks, what was the first sound you did for Atomic Picnic? I don't know that.
The first sound,
Yes.
uh, probably Ash's footsteps. That would be my wild guess. Probably it was probably that because like when you have like the empty canvas of like there's no sound at all in the game. The very first thing you probably want to do is like the character that you move and do like the actions the most. And yeah, probably that like uh followed by the some ambience just because you have to like when you start working on a brand new project you have to set a few parameters like how some sounds compare to others, so you have to decide okay, so my ambience is gonna be this loud, so I'll build like the other sounds on top of that, right, just so you can keep like that same reference all along, let's say. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's for animation wise, it's like the same thing. The first thing you do when you're like animating stuff, it's like you do the walk cycle, right? It's the exact same thing, or like an idol. You just because idols you don't get to do so much of the personality, just a character going like breathing. So you do like a run just for you to figure out how does this character move? How is it like a swing type guy, or is it like a serious guy who like moves super fast? So like it's the basics, right? So footsteps, I think it's like the same thing but for audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Toroyamas asks, do you use Foley for ambient sounds, or are they digitally made?
It's a mix of both. Like I have a few. So you kind of again, when you start working on a new project, I personally like to do a lot of just kind of a sandbox thing, that you find good sounds that are like, or at least good textures that relate to the whole project. So you try to figure that out for Foley, for synthesizers, for the music aspects of the game too, just so you have those references. So it's not like one or the other. Like you usually go with both and try to use a mix of both, especially because Atomic has like, it's not all organic, like when you think of the characters. So I think it makes sense to have like all those elements, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Sergeant Ryder asks again, what's been your favorite sound to create so far for Atomic Picnic?
The favorite sound? I think a specific sound, I would say one, like when we were working on the teaser trailer, I think it was the first one that we first showed the jellyfish.
Yeah.
I so there's the scene that the jellyfish kind of like does a taunt.
Yes.
And you hear that in the teaser. So I think that was a really fun one, especially because I was working. I had Chufi with me
Yeah.
on Discord working together, and it was really nice going back and forth with him. So
Yeah.
like that made an impression on me.
Shufi is our administrator. He's always like moving around and talking to us. He's a very fun guy to hang out with. So yeah, so he's always like like asking us stuff about our what we're doing and stuff like that. So yeah. So Lasume asks again, any tease on future sounds or music
that we can show. Do you want me to like do it live, like do it like that?
Do you have anything to show? Because if you have something to show, we can show it. It's on stream. It's fine.
I don't know. Can I show it?
Yeah, I'm giving you permission
There is an early draft.
for the stream. For the stream.
There is an early draft of a song. I can try to show a little bit.
If
of
you're
it.
not comfortable, it's not a problem.
I mean, it's an early draft, so it's not gonna be polished. I don't know. Should we show it?
You have the final answer.
Let me pick a little bit of it. Hold up. Let me put.
Can you
Okay. So like I can show a little bit of it. Hold up. Let me do. And maybe if I let me try it out here.
Yeah, try that.
Hopefully that
We're
works.
trying stuff in real time. If it breaks, I'm sorry. You're going to share your
It's a
screen.
little- So yeah, it's a little snippet. Again, it's still draft stages, so right?
Wait. Go.
Does it work? just a little bit, just a little bit.
See, it
It
worked
worked.
perfectly. It worked perfectly. I think. Did you guys listen to it? Cause I saw in OBS it working. Hopefully, it worked. Did it work?
Yeah, hopefully.
Bill, did it work? Yeah, it worked perfectly. Nice. Thank
Awesome.
you. Awesome. Okay. So, those are all the questions that we have for today. We will be ending with another question because it was a question that I had, but also a question that Army had, which is, could you share any tips for any aspiring sound designers who might be here in chat that want to work in the game industry? That's the exactly same thing that I wrote as of the last question.
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing, for sure, like, do networking. That's the number one thing. Like, work on your craft, of course. Like, you want to do music, you want to do sound design, do music, do sound design every single day, right? Don't worry too much. Like, uh, it's more about like the consistency of keeping doing it. But on top of that, which is like what you would expect, since you want to work with sound design or music, so you are expected to do music and sound design as much as you can, right? But on top of that, or maybe even more than that, actually, if you want to have a career in the industry, is to do the networking side of things. Like, go to conferences as much as you can, meet people as much as you can. Like, if you can't go to the conference, use like uh, online platforms, or just have your work out there as much as possible and talk to people, and understand that it takes time a little bit, but again, keep the consistency, keep doing your thing, and then after a while, the odds are that things will start to work out fine for you. Yeah, I'd say that's how it goes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, networking is very important, guys. Go to events, like local events that you have there. If you can travel to GDC, go to GDC. Zoliov will be at GDC, right? This
Yeah,
year?
next week.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
next week. Well, it's a little bit like on top, so you guys might not be able to go because it's like next week. But try going to events, local events, and stuff like that for your profession. That's very important.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's it. Thanks a lot, Zolia, for this was a very good chat. I love talking to you.
Yay, that was awesome.
Thanks a lot. We will do more of those with other members of the team. You guys might at one day see Bill here. So the mythic Bill might come here and talk about how amazing it is to take care of the community. I don't know who the next one is. But yeah, Zolov, thanks a lot for coming. And thank you guys. Thanks a lot. I will be rating another channel. For the first time, one of the OTK people will be rating. So thank you guys and have a great
Thank you so much, everybody.
rest of the day. Bye bye, guys.
Bye bye.